What is up, Maniacs? I am Zach Barger, and I am the Millie Maker Maniac. Welcome. We are about to do a best ball draft. This is for Best Ball Mania on Underdog. We got it all queued up here. We are counting down. Got another 40 seconds before we get started. We are going to be pick 6 today. So, in this range, pretty much just how ADP is where my current rankings are. I like McCaffrey a little bit more than most. I have him ranked as player number 4. I've kind of gone back and forth with him and Gibbs. Barkley I have behind both, but they're all very close. One of my lower rostered percentages as far as players in this range is Justin Jefferson. For a lot of the best ball season, he was the consensus pick number 2. I was taking him as player number 5. Primarily, I was taking CD ahead of him. I was taking Jamar ahead of him, McCaffrey ahead of him for a bit. But now I do want to get a little bit more of him in this range. I just built a Jefferson lineup on my last stream. But I'm thinking it's probably going to be either Jefferson or McCaffrey here. We'll see how it falls. I think I would go Jefferson over McCaffrey at the moment. I believe McCaffrey is going to be the more likely to be player number 1 when it comes to fantasy points. But I don't want to fade Jefferson as much as I have. I want to have some of him. So I'm going to force a Jefferson lineup here, even though I really feel like McCaffrey is actually the better pick there. I just want to get a little bit more exposure to Jefferson in all my lineups. I only have, this is my 5th to last draft left as far as before I max out in Best Ball Mania. So been looking over my exposures quite a bit, trying to just make sure that there's not guys that I want more of that I don't have. And when I did that, I did see that I think it was only 3% Justin Jefferson. So I want to have a little bit more than that. So because of that, we'll be forcing a Justin Jefferson lineup today. In week 17, they play the Lions. So we'll get both Lions and Vikings queued up here to get some game correlation and some stacking with our number 1 player. So we're in this scenario, right? We're taking Justin Jefferson. We're drafting as if we're right. And so for him to be worth our first overall pick, we've got to believe that he can be wide receiver 1 and or the guy that scores the most points in week 17. He's definitely capable of both of those. So we are going to draft as if that is the case. All right, so our second pick is coming up here. Anybody we have queued up is too far away. We're not going to take Jameson Williams here. So we're be deciding here. Looks like we got Achane, Bowers, McConkey, Irving. I'm actually going to go Bucky Irving here. I can make a case for both Bowers and McConkey. The draft, so I don't mess that up. But I'm avoiding Achane right now. I've got some of him, roughly around 5% Achane throughout all my drafts. But with the new calf injury, and vibes in Miami just feel bad so far. I think there's a good chance that they have a tough season and are towards the bottom of the league. McConkey, I think, is going to be really solid. Bowers, I think, very likely will be tight end 1. I do think that Kittle and McBride are very close, have very similar potential ceilings and outcomes, and they go a lot later. So I've got more of them than I've got Bowers, but Bowers is solid. But the reason that I went with Bucky is because Tampa Bay has a very nice playoff schedule. So I'll go over here to my best ball team breakdown that I've created. Got a breakdown for every team. We go to Tampa Bay. Last year, they were 3rd in overall fantasy points. They were QB5, 2nd in running back points, 4th in wide receiver points. And so I put in for regression in all of my models, and still they're top 10 in every category besides tight end. And look at their playoff schedule. They play Atlanta, Carolina, and Miami. I think Miami could have one of the worst secondaries in the history of the league this year. So I love that for my players to get access to that. So I've been taking a lot of bucks, and now those targets are getting even more concentrated. So I think I'm going to take Williams here if he's available, Evans, if he's available. And it looks like he has fallen, and we'll try to get Igbokwe later. We'll go ahead and star these guys, but they're not our main targets. Okay, so I know this seems a little crazy ADP wise, we're not too far off, but I really think that the Buccaneers could score the most points of anybody in week 17. Therefore, I'm going to pursue that. Even if they have a down year compared to what they did last year, there's still a really good chance that they're a top 10 fantasy offense. Their defense was awful last year. It's likely going to be a little bit better, but they're still going to be in plenty of shootouts, and shootouts mean fantasy points. And really, when it comes to positional players, with the injuries they have for a lot of the year, there's a really good chance that it's going to be Bucky, Mike Evans, and Emeka Igbokwe. So if I can get like what I think is going to be the vast majority of the production on their offense, and they have a chance to be the team that goes off in week 17, I'm gonna reach for that all day. I'll pull guys like Mike Evans up and Emeka Igbokwe as well. So we'll take him well before 60. Igbokwe is my highest owned player. I have 27% Igbokwe right now. I missed the days of being able to get him at the around pick 100. Obviously got a ton of him on that time frame, but even now where he's going, I think is a fair value. So we're coming up on our next pick. I'm going to take JMO here. I want to have that game correlation with Justin Jefferson. I think if that game goes off, those are two guys that could be the highest scorers for their teams. So I'm going to get that combination, a combination that has a good possibility of happening in week 17. That's really when we're doing these best ball drafts. Obviously, I'm digging into everything I can dig into, consuming all the content I can consume. Oh, damn. We missed JMO there. That's a bummer. So in this range, I like Cook. I'm going to go with Cook here. Obviously, he just signed the contract. Everybody is expecting him to regress, but he's going as running back 14 when he was top 5 last year. He's probably not going to get as many touchdowns, but they're going to run the ball. They're going to their recipe isn't trying to just score fantasy points. They're going to try to slow games down, which obviously we don't love that aspect of it, but they're going to do that by running the football. Cook's going to have a lot of red zone action, I think, again this year. Will he score? I think it was 18 touchdowns that he scored last year. That's very unlikely. But if he scores double digits, which I think is very likely, he'll probably finish better than his running back 15 that he's going as right now. So would have preferred to get Jameson Williams there. It's a bummer he didn't fall to us. I think that script that I'm kind of discussing there is very likely to happen with, a Jefferson going off. And then Williams being the guy on the lines you need. But that's okay. And if it's say it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Jefferson's the other guy, like that's a combination nobody's going to have. Like nobody's going to have Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jefferson and Gibbs. So we don't have to really fade those combinations because they're not going to exist. Nobody is going to be able to build that lineup. So even if that is the case, if like those guys are the top scorers, it's just going to be different versions of those lineups. It's not going to be both of those guys in the lineup because it's just not possible to draft that combination of players. So we're pulling up Igbokwe. There were guys in this range that are definitely solid, and I would rank ahead of Igbokwe alone. Obviously, I think all these running backs are solid. I'm lower on Rice, especially because they play the Broncos in Week 17. I really like Hunter, have a ton of Hunter, but I don't want to risk Igbokwe not getting back to me. I'm building this super team that's the Bucs, and I want all those pieces. If the Bucs are a top 5 fantasy offense this year, which they were last year, they were 3rd overall. Like these 3 pieces are going to be the pieces that have the most fantasy points. And then I'll add Baker, giving me a really good chance of having the right combination of guys I need for week 17 if Baker's QB1. Baker's QB1, I probably got a lineup that is going to have a chance. That's how we're building this. We're thinking through season scenarios and playoff scenarios and specifically week 17 scenarios. And if those scenarios make sense, like if we can combine some elements to come together and it makes sense that could happen, then we want to try to build towards that. So that's what we're doing here. So we'd probably take Montgomery here. Actually, I really like Connor a lot. If Connor gets here, we'll worry less about game correlation. Yeah, we'll go Connor here. Give us a really good running back room. Obviously, health is a concern with him, but that's a really strong running back room. We have a balanced team right now. I think 3 guys that are going to be, I think there's a very good chance that all these guys are top 24 wide receivers. That would be pulling Egbuka quite a bit up from his ranking, but I think when it's all said and done and the dust settles, people are going to wish they had a lot more Egbuka, and he's a top 24. Like, that's still a good pick right there. Even if he's top 36, that's a fine pick. So we got balance there. We're going to need to add some receiver here with our next few picks. And we're going to get Baker, not with this pick, probably. We got pick 78, and then he gets 91. So not this next pick, but the following pick will be Baker. He likely will fall to us. Shouldn't have to be worried about somebody sniping him early from ADP because we have all of the Buccaneers pieces. So if somebody were to take Baker ahead of ADP, they would be doing it completely unstacked. And if somebody's reaching for Baker, it's likely because they have pieces for that offense. So he should fall to us at 92. So we're going to want to get one of these other pieces. We didn't get Addison, which is a bummer. I really like trying to get Addison with Jefferson. And my last one, we had Hawkinson with him. Really want to go receiver here. Like, you can see from a correlation standpoint, the players that we have queued up are running backs, but I feel strong about our running back room and not as strong about our wide receiver room. So to me, it's either Jennings or Reed here or Downs. I'm going to go Juwan Jennings. I know he's dealing with the calf injury, but I think a lot of that has to do with his contract dispute. I think if it wasn't for his contract dispute, he would probably be playing right now. And I just think the 49ers are likely to have a good year. They've got a generous schedule and a healthy Christian McCaffrey right now. Brock Purdy's paid. I think there's just a lot of scenarios in which the Niners have a solid season. Jennings, I think, is going to get both volume and some spike weeks. So he's a guy that I like as a wide receiver 4. I'd like to get another one of these guys, but it's going to be tough because we have to go Baker here. I also was considering Reed. He's fallen a lot because he's also been injured, but he's going to have plenty of weeks this year where he goes off. And I think Jordan Love is another candidate to be one of those guys that has a big jump from where they were last year. He's a guy that is capable of throwing 40 touchdowns, I believe. So that was why I was considering Reed there, because it gives us another option to stack a quarterback later. But that's just not how it fell. I feel good about the Jennings pick. We could also consider taking Brock here later as well. But we're going to go Baker now, and then we'll see how it plays out from there. We got Godwin here too. I think Godwin will come back at some point this year, but I really think it's unlikely that he's going to be the same guy. The injury he had was tough. And it's just so hard to come back from it. There's just elements of like, you can't work. Like, there's some stuff that's just damaged. You can't fix it. Like, you're never going to be the same player no matter how much you rehab. And I think that's a real likelihood for Godwin. So I think he'll come back. He'll be useful from an NFL standpoint, but I don't think he's going to be as explosive as he was previously. And he had a really good first half of the season when he was healthy last year, but he never was like a big boom week guy anyways. He was just a consistent guy. So I prefer profiles that can have that, those big games where it's 100 yards and 2 TDs. And he would have those occasionally, but it would be like at a lot of volume, and he wasn't getting a lot of touchdowns. So I don't have any issue fading him, but feel really good about this Baker lineup. We got the top 3 pieces from the offense matched with Justin Jefferson as a stud. 2 solid running backs as well. So yeah, I really like how that's fallen. So what we could do here, we could go Purdy and then go McCarthy. We'd be done with our QB room. Really nobody else to add to Purdy besides going backup running back with Garindo. Could add Ayuk, I guess. Ayuk is running around. There's like progress towards him coming back. So we could consider that late. I haven't got much Ayuk. Kind of just don't think similar thing what I'm saying with Godwin, but Godwin hasn't even been seen running at practice. Ayuk at least been running around at practice. So yeah, we'll go Purdy. There's plenty of scenarios in which where Purdy's top 5 quarterback. This isn't the lineup where he's going to like carry that lineup because we only have Jennings. But if he is that guy, he'll hit our lineup plenty, and then we're just more rooting for Baker to be the guy that we need in week 17. But Purdy will get us plenty of useful weeks throughout the year. Let's see. We're going to be our next pick is 115, and that would be followed by 126. So I think I'm going to risk it and try to get both guys and hope that McCarthy falls 2 spots, which is, there's a good chance of, although one of those guys doesn't have a quarterback, there's still a lot of QBs left. The big run really hasn't happened. And McCarthy's a guy that you don't really want to take on stack. So Addison was somewhere over here, I think. Yeah. Oh, that's mine. Let's see. Yeah, wherever Addison is, he's a few picks ahead of us. So he's really the only guy that's a threat to take McCarthy. So yeah, I'm going to roll the dice just because we're a little, as far as depth goes, thin at receiver. Plus, this gives us another stack with Purdy. So yeah, well, like I said, I don't have much Ayuk. It's kind of not really the type of player that I want. I don't want to be like depending on a guy coming off of an injury down the stretch, but he could, he's been a top 10 wide receiver in the past. And if like say if Jennings went down or Pearsall went down or one of their guys gets hurt, all of a sudden they need him to be that guy again. So we'll go for it. Gives us 2 pieces of the 49ers. So gives us a better chance that if Purdy goes off in week 17 that we have the pieces we need. Go along with him. Now we just hope McCarthy falls. Baker and Purdy so far, hoping we get McCarthy. Running back room is looking really solid. We can take some shots on some late season flyers because we got stability. I mean, we have 3 guys that all legitimately have potential to be top 12 running backs. So that we have a really solid room there. So we can take some more chances at other positions because we have so much strength at running back. And again, when we're drafting these, we're drafting this as like best case scenario. So we're assuming all these guys' health. We're assuming that they're going to be there for week 17. We're not really playing the game that if they get hurt, what happens? Like if that happens, this lineup doesn't have much of a chance. So we're not going to operate as if that's how it plays out. Okay, so yeah, McCarthy's still there for now. Both these guys have quarterbacks. One more to go. Come on now. Let's go. Let's go. There we go. We made it. So it worked out in our favor. It's not always going to work out in your favor, but it's important to do what we did there. And that looking at guys that are in our queue that make sense for stacks, and if they're going to get to you at your next pick, or if you have two guys that are in the same range, should I pull one of those guys up? Like, it makes sense sometimes to take people way ahead of ADP in order to allow you to finish out a build for a stack or for game correlation, meaning who they're playing in week 17. And you might ask, why do I always talk so much about stacking on these? Why am I so worried about getting teammates? Few reasons. One, I did a whole bunch of correlation charting. I charted every single week from the 2024 season and really looked at what happens when a QB is a top 5 scoring fantasy QB that week. What I found was a crazy correlation to having teammates and opponents being top 10 performers at their position. So when a QB is top 5 at their position, let me pull this up on my correlation charting over here. They have a position player, a teammate, so a wide receiver, running back, or tight end teammate that is top 10 at their position 88% of the time, at least one. They have a 2 that are top 10 at their position 47% of the time. And 70% of the time, there is an opponent that is top 10 at their position. So in most scenarios, you're going to have 3 players from one game that are top 10 at their position. And then you're going to have almost over 50%, 47% of the time, you'll have 3 coming from that game. 4 coming from that game. So when we know that, we can start talking about scenarios for games rather than, we're up here now, sorry, lock in real quick. So we're a little, what are you pulling? Let's see. Let's go Trey Harris. All right, we got Trey. He's dropping a lot, but he's a guy that I think is kind of has that Ricky Pearsall type vibe. Obviously not as high of a pick, but Ricky Pearsall last year had a trash season, right? He was a guy that was bad all year long. But in week 17, he was the wide receiver, I think wide receiver 3. Like, he was the guy that you needed to have in week 17. Trey Harris, I think, is a guy that could be that. Like, obviously Keenan Allen's there now. He's jumping up draft boards, but Keenan Allen is very likely to get hurt. He's had all sorts of soft tissue issues throughout his career. He's had, he's older. He's in his early 30s now, working towards his mid 30s. It's very likely that he doesn't make all 17 games. And I think the guy that would step up in that scenario would either be Trey Harris or Keandre Lambert Smith there at the end of the year. But Harris, I feel, is a guy that is sneaky, where he might not hit your lineup much throughout the year, but could be a guy that goes off at the end of the year. So adding a little bit to our wide receiver room that gets us up there. So we need to get a tight end here. We've punted on tight end. We'd like to get Otten. So pull Otten up a little bit. I'm okay with punting tight end. We're going in the 13th round, so it's not, there's still plenty of options there. We can just go through here. Brenton Strange, Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, Chigakonkwo, likely, like that whole group. I'd take 1 or 2 of those guys. And as we get down here, I want to get Cade to finish out the stack for the Bucks. I would take Gesicki. And then my real deep sleeper that I'm getting in the 18th round a lot is Harold Fannin. Just a lot of positive buzz in camp. Was a stud in college, even though he was at a smaller school at Bowling Green. He just puts up numbers. So he's a guy that is off the radar that I think could be really solid. But getting back to the stacking, what I'm doing when I'm building these lineups is I'm thinking through game scenarios. So if with my first pick, I took Justin Jefferson. So I look at the game that he's in week 17. He's playing the Lions. Do I think that that's a game that could be a shootout? Most definitely. So I'm going to build this lineup as if that game is going to be a shootout. Now, that didn't really play out as well as we wanted it to because I wasn't able to get any Lions. We might have add Tesla late, but it just didn't fall to where I could grab any Lions. But the other game that I'm looking at is the Bucks versus the Dolphins. This one, I feel like there's a good chance of this being more of just a beat down where these guys put up a ton of points in the first half, and maybe there's not even really a much of a game going on in the second half. But who knows? Maybe the Dolphins are in it, like in a scenario in which the Dolphins are in it, and if they're in it, that's a scenario where their offense has been really solid for the whole year. And so that means that a shootout is more likely. So in that scenario, we got one side of that. So we didn't get any Dolphins either. We might be able to get Ollie Gordon here later. He could be a guy that, would be like the last guy that would be possible to be a breakout beyond maybe Malik Washington. I don't really believe in Jalen Wright too much, but he's obviously going up draft boards right now. Darren Waller hasn't even practiced yet. So it would be those three guys that I would consider. But even if we don't have, we don't have Dolphin pieces now. So maybe that Dolphin that it makes the top 10 is just like wide receiver 10, but we have three other guys that are above him. So you could still have a successful lineup and not have the other side. But it makes a lot of sense in most scenarios to take that correlation. So unfortunately, it looks like I got auto drafted there. I wasn't paying attention, and we took McMillan. It's a little bit more Bucks than I would actually like. I have a ton of McMillan. I like McMillan a lot, and he is somebody that could go off in week 17. But I obviously just got hurt. I'm hearing that he's out to even like week 9. They have a bye on week 9, so kind of a bummer. I auto click there. That maxes us out at receiver too, so we're gonna have to go tight end here next. Yeah, that was a mistake there, but that's okay. It could play out all right. We're gonna have to go tight end here, and we need to get some more running backs too. But yeah, so we have we get Auden. We really have the entire Bucks offense besides Godwin. So that could play out. Yeah, we got to go out in here. It's going to be a funny looking, like it is. This is a stack to the max here. Go Bucks. This lineup, if Baker throws 40 touchdowns, we're in business. So definitely looking at getting Agasecki in here with Jonnu as well. And really, for me, it's Fannin down here. He's really the only guy I want in this range. So we got Auden. So we have the Buccaneers offense. Honestly, it looks good. The pieces that we don't have are really solid, where we got Jefferson. We got 2 pieces of the 49ers receiving game. We've got a rookie upside. We've got late season upside with McMillan. Especially like if one of our guys got hurt here, we'd have to fill in. Running back, we got 3 studs plus another piece of the passing game for the Bucks with Rachaad White. So I think we're just going to do one more running back. So honestly, if Gordon falls here, I would probably go Gordon, and then we'll go tight ends, and call it good. Punt tight end is a solid strategy. I like it for a few reasons. I like the elites, but then I don't really like being in like that Hawkinson range. Just feel like there's a lot better skill position players in that range of the draft. But when you think about tight end, like really it's touchdown dependent. So if you give your give yourselves 3 shots at it. A lot of weeks you're going to bank that tight end. And then there's not a lot of huge boom games that come from the tight ends. We missed out on Gordon there. So we'll go Gesicki here. I think he's just more likely of the big boom game. And then we'll go Fannin with the last pick. We got to figure out a running back too. Looking for a guy with upside. Taj Brooks would probably be the one that I think that I like the most in this range. Do we have Brown? No, this team. That was the team I drafted earlier. So yeah, I'd go there or DJ Giddens. Those are guys that are kind of unknowns, like Corum too, but guys that if the guy in front of them goes down, they have a shot to be the guy that gets volume. That is really off. They don't really have value unless that happens. But if that does happen, all of a sudden they could be guys that you need to have in the playoff run. So those are the type of running backs I like to take in this range. So we take Taj. We're taking Tesla off of there because we already got too many receivers. We're at 7. So we're going to have a 3-5-7-3 build, which I'm good with how our running back room is built. We got 3 really solid guys. So it's okay to have a smaller room. And they all have different buys too. So yeah, we'll take this swing on Brooks if he falls to us here. And then we'll go Fannin in the 18th. If not Fannin, then we'll look at a different tight end. All right, so we got Taj Brooks, like the running back room, Bucky Irving, James Cook, James Conner, and then we got Rachaad White and Taj Brooks. So really like how that played out. Rachaad White to me isn't really a handicap on Bucky. It's more of like they both have weeks that they hit. Rashaad's going to have plenty of weeks where he's still getting touches. They're not going to try to run Bucky into the ground, I don't think. In big moments, Bucky's going to be getting the ball. And as we go down the stretch, he'll be getting the ball more. But throughout the year, they're going to try to limit his touches to just make sure he's there for the playoff run. So I like that whole build. And the Taj Brooks is a guy, like I explained, if Chase Brown were to go down, he's the guy that instantly gets a ton of volume and a really good offense. That's a combination for a guy that can be the reason you win the $2 million. Wide receiver room. Really like Justin Jefferson, obviously up top, and he's matched up with his quarterback. Then we got the top 2 receiving options for the Bucs now, and Evans and Igbuka also matched up with our quarterback, and then McMillan thrown in there as well. Didn't love that pick, but it's okay. And we got Jennings and Ayuk to go with Purdy. So a lot of correlation in our receiver room, which we love to see. If one of these, when receivers have big games, it tends to help their quarterbacks have big games. So really good correlation there. And then at tight end, obviously not our strength of the team, but we got Cade Otton, who's stacked with our quarterback, and Gesicki stacked with Brooks. And obviously pieces of the Bengals are solid, even though most of that concentration is going to 2 guys. It looks like Fannin got taken, so we're going to have to figure something else out here. Let's look at tight end. Pretty rough through here. Pretty rough. Well, I think I'm just going to add another receiver. Man, that's tough. We'll just throw Freiermuth in there. We need a tight end. Not a lot of weapons in that offense. I think he'll be a guy that falls in the end zone here and there, and then could add some weeks. We don't want to put up a complete 0 there, so we needed a 3rd tight end. So tight end didn't quite play out the way we wanted it to, but everything else feel really good about. Love the quarterback room. These are guys that when they go off, they're bringing guys along with them because they're pocket passers, and we have the pieces that come along with them. So really like this one. This one played out really well. The only mistake I feel like I made was the auto draft on McMillan. with his injury. If he wasn't hurt, I would love that pick actually. But obviously with his injury, taking him above ADP like I did on the auto draft was a mistake. Would have liked to just get a different value there, but that's all right. I think it still could be a happy little mistake that works in our favor at the end of the year. My friends, thanks for tuning in. Smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next draft.